Greetings, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Pammy Out Loud. I'm your host, Pamela Walsh, and this is a show about finding community and building connections in your life. Today, I am joined by my friend and therapist, and I mean that literally, Dr. Sarah Kyle. She is a therapist in private practice here in Austin, Texas. And we're going to be taking on the topic of mothers-in-law and daughters-in-law. Why is that such a complicated relationship, and how we can all make a better run at it? So welcome, Sarah. I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks so much. I'm so excited to be here. We've been talking about this topic for a minute now.
And also, before I get any further, I want to say that Dr. Kyle is a co-host of one of the Shody Media sister podcasts of mine, Dateable AF, which she does with Rachel Howell. And this is a show on women dating women, although I tell everybody it's for any type of relationship. While y'all kind of you say it's for women dating women, I have learned so much from y'all, and it's such a fun show just to hear the two of you laugh out loud and some of the silly stories that y'all share. But it also
Thanks for saying that.
But it also just has such great insight and wisdom, whether you're in the dating world or even in the straight married husband and wife. That's where I am at this point. I've gleaned so much wisdom from y'all, so y'all should give it a listen, and really you'll benefit from it, enjoy it greatly. So
thanks. Yeah, we would love to have you give a listen to Dateable AF.
So Sarah is the reason that I started this podcast. She actually got me hooked up with Shody Media, and she's like, as I've told the story many times, she said, you should do a podcast. So I think I want to do a podcast. She said, you should, and here's who the people are that you should do it with. And I was like, wait a minute.
Well, I'm so glad you did it. This is literally one of my favorite podcasts. I love listening to it, and I think you're just such a natural at it.
Well, thank you very, very much. So let's just jump right into this topic. Why, few relationships strike more fear in the hearts of people than the one between a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law. And why is that so complicated? What is it that we do, and what do we bring to it that can both cause more problems and more importantly, what can we do differently in terms of our approach to it? And I want to talk about this really from all angles, the mother-in-law angle, the daughter-in-law angle, even the son that's involved in it. What are the lessons that we can learn from this? And what do you see in your practice? And, just enlighten us, Sarah.
Yeah, I wish I had all the answers to this one, but I think that you and I have interesting perspectives about this because we are both daughter-in-laws and we are both mother-in-laws. We both have sons. So we've sort of approached this from all the various angles, and we've experienced good stuff with it, like having great relationships within those dynamics, but we've also,
stumbled
the struggles, and we have friends, I have clients, you're so right that this particular relationship, think of all the stereotypes about it, like the monster-in-law.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Why is it that, the view, the stereotypical view is, her mother or his mother is this overbearing, controlling entity that I have to navigate. And what's really interesting as I've gotten older, one of the things that I've discovered is there is, as we talked about before the show even started, there's so many books and references out there to how to raise toddlers, how to raise teens. Then you make the transition into adulthood, and there's just not a lot out there about it.
Nobody teaches us how to do this phase of parenting. We're winging it out here, kids.
Yeah, that's right. Now, for me, I just want to a little bit back history. I was raised in a family of girls, and I watched my mother, I guess, probably, what we learn how we were raised. I watched my mother be the daughter-in-law, and she was responsible for the family relationships and navigating and keeping those connections between her her mother-in-law and our family, and she uh, embraced both those roles. Her mother and her mother-in-law was her high school English teacher.
So, oh, wow. So she had a previous relationship.
She said it took her so long to not call her Mrs. McFarland, that she'd been Mrs. McFarland since she was in high school. So it's very hard for her to make that switch over to it. But, and then when I married Brian, 1987, I assumed the role similar to how I saw my mother navigate it, which included I picked out the Mother's Day presents, I picked out the Christmas presents. It seems like there's been a transition more in this generation to it's your mother, you take care of it. I don't know if that's true or not, but sometimes that's what I kind of hear. Like I see that even in the wedding invitations or the thank you notes, is that it's now very typical for the groom to write his half of the family, or at least I've seen that with a lot of stuff. So, I think we bring kind of, the way I did it was the way it's going to work when it happens, when I have my own daughters-in-law.
Yeah, when I am the mother-in-law. Yeah, right. And I've heard you talk about your mother-in-law before and how great she is and how you've enjoyed that relationship. And so, you taking the responsibility of keeping that bond between Brian and his family and your mother-in-law with your kids and that sort of thing. I think that is typical, though, that women were more responsible for all the emotional labor in our generation and past generations. And maybe that's not happening anymore.
How about for you? What was your examples of mothers-in-law and how does that translate into your own life now?
Yeah, so watching my mother with her mother-in-law, my grandmother, my paternal grandmother passed away when I was 10. So I only had my childhood to watch my mom, but my mom got along very well with her mother-in-law. And then watching my mom with my brother's wives. So seeing her navigate that, she was actually probably closer to my brother's wives than she was to my brothers during those, So it was really nice to watch that she really embraced them as her daughters. When I got married to my kid's dad, I loved his family. I loved my mother-in-law, and I wanted to hang out with her. I wanted to foster that relationship. And so, my experience with that was all seeing mothers-in-law and daughters-in-law making it work and being very close, just of their own right.
Yep. Yeah. So you bring up Brian's mother, and I've talked about her before on my show. I call her, she's a rock star. She is 92 and but I will tell you, I look back now as an older woman, now as a woman that has my own daughters-in-law and the relationships. And, if I'll be perfectly honest, I didn't give her the attention that she deserved, I think. We lived far away from Brian's family, and, we'd go, hey, you want to go home for Christmas? And he'd be like, I don't know if I want to drive back to Iowa. You know what? And I'm like, okay, and like, I sit there now and think about how many things that my mother-in-law gave up. We always had Thanksgiving with my family. We always, I think there's a dynamic that when you get married, well, I don't know, you'll have to speak to this, but you bring the woman brings in her family traditions, and that tends to trump
override. Yeah.
What the boys have done. The boys just say, the boys, the men, say, okay, well, this is the way I did it in my family, so we're going to keep on this path, right? And we don't necessarily, as a young woman, see that, as we just do what we want to.
Yep. And you've heard the saying, I think it says, it goes like, a daughter's a daughter for life, but a son is a son until he takes a wife.
Right.
And I think that's
a stupid saying.
As moms of sons, we hate that saying.
But I think that also, to me, speaks to one of the first dynamics that I think that, and I bring this topic up because it's something that I hear my friends talk a lot about, particularly my friends that have adult sons. And I have friends who have a spectrum of relationships with their daughters-in-law, everything from like you were saying, they treat them as their own daughter. They do a lot of things together. They're very bonded. To I have friends that have been completely estranged from their son. I had a friend whose son said to her, my wife said, I have to pick between you or her, and I choose her, and goodbye. And she didn't have any communication with him for almost 6 years.
That is so hard. And you got to wonder why. Like, why would the wife draw that line in the sand?
Right. And you do, I only hear obviously one side of the story, right? But, I sit there and think these are women that I don't think of as being, worthy of estrangement, but I don't know. I do not know what happened. So I don't want to side only with one or the other. It's just, I think that it's just such a painful topic for women in my age group of like, wow, I used to have such a close relationship with my son and we don't anymore. And they don't know what to do about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a really interesting kind of minefield to navigate. I was thinking too, I wonder if introversion, extroversion comes into play because I'm extroverted. I am a connector. I love being connected with people. So I wanted that connection with my mother-in-law. And I have 2 sons. One of them is married and the other one's engaged. But my son who's married is married to a woman who's very introverted and who likes to keep to herself. And I adore her. She's an amazing person. And she's not calling me every week to go shopping with her or, things like that I imagine might happen. Right. But I don't think it's because there's something wrong. I think it's because she's introverted and she would rather read a book at her house than go shopping with her mother-in-law.
Right. Well, I think that's true. I mean, like for me, and then I think that also brings in another topic, which is what are our expectations as we go into the relationship, right?
Yeah.
I had this expectation that we were going to go shopping and we were going to get our nails done, and she was going to call me when she was mad at my son and tell me, and no one told her that.
She didn't get the memo.
She did not get the memo. That's what I wanted, And so then I see that, or it's easy to see that as rejection, right? She doesn't.
Yeah,
but I also think I neglected to realize, she had a mother. She didn't want another mother, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that was a unfair expectation that I was laying on top of my daughters-in-law, to say, this is what I want from you, and you should just know that because that's what you should do. Right.
Yeah, of course. And I'm like a more the merrier, like, yeah, I've got a mom, but sure, let me have another one. That's great.
Right. And I remember my mother-in-law saying to me, because I even had it in my head, well, I'll call her mom too, and she said to me, you don't call me mom. You already have one of those. But she gave me she said, call me Sazzy. I've always wanted someone to do that. Right. So she gave me that pet name or whatever you would call it, that I could call her, that made me have that sense without saying, you already have your mom, I'm not your mom, and I really appreciated that.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah. The other thing, okay, so let's talk about the identity issue that comes into play. So,
okay,
one of the things in research, and also I can see that I've heard other women talking about, is when their son gets married, go back into that till he takes a wife, there is a change in identity for who his mother is. Particularly, I think that it can be, you're used to being the one that he asks questions to. Do you think this looks good on me? And then they transition to they don't want your opinion, and they don't care what it is, and they really don't want it anymore, And so then you're feeling like you're being replaced. I don't know if that's right. Is that do you see that, or you think of it? How do you feel about that?
I definitely do see that. And if you imagine, it's like, if you have a best friend and then that person gets another best friend, like you would feel kind of shoved aside or left out. And not that that's exactly analogous, but it's like you and your son have had a relationship that has lasted since the day he was born, and you've been his go-to in some ways, and now he has a different go-to. Yeah, like that's like, oh man, bummer. Like, as it should be, of course.
Right.
Like, he should go to his wife.
Absolutely.
And it still feels a little sad, like we're losing something.
Yeah. So and then from the daughter-in-law's perspective, where do they, like, how does that identity impact them? I mean, do they see it as, I don't know. I mean, they probably aren't even thinking about it. I mean, that's
probably not.
Yeah, no.
Unless it's a negative. Like, I've heard stories of, a mother-in-law who would call her son to say, can you come change a light bulb for me? Or kind of relying on him. And then the daughter-in-law was like, wait a minute, that's not your priority. Your mom needs to find her own support system. Your priority's here with your family that you live with.
Right.
And so I can see a daughter-in-law's perspective of getting annoyed if the mom's too needy, too overbearing, or calls too often, or things like that.
Right. So then when a mother-in-law comes into the situation, I have heard stories, right? One is, okay, they show up and they say, oh, we should do it this way, right? Which would not fly well for most women. I don't think. I wouldn't like it, like, oh, let me see. But then also the balance of, okay, I come into a situation, or they come into whatever, you walk in and you're like, how can I help? Right. Mm-hmm. And you think you're helping, but in the daughters-in-law mind, right, it's like
you're being overbearing or
critical, right?
Yeah.
You're tidying up my kitchen, right? So you think I'm not a good kitchen, I'm not a clean person, right? Or where
intention is that you just want to help, like you're trying to take the load off of them. And this is like, I hear about this a lot, especially when a baby comes into the picture, that the mother.
That's a good topic, because I just got one of those grandbabies.
Oh, you did just get one.
Yes.
And so have you gone to your son and daughter-in-laws?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
So when you go, are you like, do you go in and say, hey, let me do some baby laundry, let me fold your clothes, are you doing those things?
I am doing, I tried, I let them try, I try to let them lead and say, what is it that I can do? If there was stuff on the dining room table and I said, do you want me to put these things away? Right. Like, so I kind of, now they pretty well up front said to me, we want you to feed her in the middle of the night. I'm really good in the nighttime stuff. So,
oh, awesome.
I that they have that is, but I don't want to, like, if I start picking things up, does that feel like I'm imposing? I can go in, do you know what I mean? Like, I've wondered that. I have wondered that for myself, is, are they going to feel like I'm doing something that they don't, doesn't bother them, just leave it alone,
Yeah, it's such a good question. And I also wonder if security comes into play, because like, I'm a pretty secure person. So if you came over to my house and were like, yeah, let me fold these clothes, I would think that was amazing. I'd be like, please.
Me too.
And I would never ask you. Even if you came and said, what can I do? I would never say to you, hey, could you fold the clothes?
Right.
And so I don't know. I wonder if you're insecure, you're attaching meaning, like, oh, she thinks I'm a bad housekeeper because I haven't folded the clothes yet.
Yeah, listen, I can remember, this is how my brain works. When my mother-in-law or father-in-law, Brian and I lived far away from both of our parents when we had kids. And so whenever they would come to visit, I would literally go through the house and do I have equal number of 5x7s out on the bookshelf of his family and my family? I am not kidding you. And I would try to think, what did she give me for Christmas? Is it on display somewhere? I mean, I was probably not, I know for sure I was way too preoccupied with that, but
with
I've
what other
always,
people thought.
I have been very much I'm like you. If somebody wants to help me, yay, come
Please
on in.
do. Like, I'm
Come on
probably
in
not
here.
going to ask you to help, but if you just show up and help, I'm thrilled.
Right.
But if I was insecure, I might interpret that as, oh, she thinks I'm a bad housekeeper because she's putting my dishes in the dishwasher or something like that.
So this sounds like it's a communication gap in some ways, right? So how do we navigate that, right? So do I go in there and say, is there something you want me to do? Or, oh, I see there's laundry on the couch. Can I fold, and just start folding it? You know what I mean? What is the best way to navigate that?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question because I don't think you should be walking on eggshells about it. Like, oh, is this okay? Because that just furthers that dynamic. But to say, hey, I'm going to do these things, please don't assume that it means I'm being critical of you. I'm not. I'm trying to be helpful. And if you don't want me to do something, please speak up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You're
I
right.
think it takes both people to say, hey, I like my clothes folded a certain way. Please don't do that. Yeah, that's fine.
Right. And then, I have also been, and again, like I said, a baby is a really good, I'm going to say almost lightning rod for, you know, well, in my day, we did it this way, right?
Yeah.
It's very, very, I personally, it was whatever they tell me to do, that's how I'm going to do it. I mean, I make jokes, but I think it was the truth. I had 3 children, and in the time that I had those 3 boys, it completely changed. It went from they slept on their tummies to they slept on their sides to they slept on their backs. Like
Yep.
in a span of 5 years, the medical recommendation for how to do it was differently. So
Yep.
I do know, and there's a piece of you that goes, okay, I raised 3 kids, and you guys somehow got to adult.
They all the side sleeper and the back sleeper and the stomach sleeper all made it to adulthood.
Right, right. But that being said, I will always, if you tell me how you want me to burp the baby, you tell me how you want me to feed the baby, whatever you want, however you say to do it, I will do it. And I don't, but then there's like, oh, well, we did it this way. I think that women get into a lot of trouble when they start saying,
Yep,
well, I get it
here's
this
how
way.
it's done. Yep. And that's such a good point that this is one of the things I think mothers-in-law can do is respect the thing that your daughter-in-law is asking. So one of the things I hear a lot is about food, that parents have a specific way they want to feed their kid, like no
Yes.
sugar or no dairy or whatever the thing is. And
My grandson's vegan. Yeah.
And so, grandparents are like, your kid, eat a little meat. That's not going to hurt anything. And your kids are like, no, that's not how I'm raising my kid. And so as a grandparent or mother-in-law, you can be very respectful of your daughter-in-law's wishes around what she wants for her kid. And as a daughter-in-law, you can respectfully make that clear, like, hey, maybe I know this isn't how you did it. This is what we're trying, and do that in a friendly, respectful way.
Right, right. And like my son and daughter-in-law are vegans, and they are raising their son that way. But at the same time, like they will take him and he'll get a cookie or something. And so I have learned, I will always ask. I don't give him anything without saying, is it okay if,
yes,
we go get a cookie, or, I take him to do this or whatever, because, I want them to know, whether they're with me or not with me, that I'm going to
respect them.
I'm going to do their parenting, whatever they say, do it, whether I agree with it or not, or think it's whatever, we did it that way. Anybody else did it that way. So that's okay. So what do you think? Let's talk about how does the son play into this picture? Or
such a good question, because I would say sort of traditional therapy idea is that you don't triangulate. So if I have something to say, I should say it directly to my daughter-in-law, and she should say it directly to me, because including the son makes a triangle, right? In this case, though, I need to think this through, but so I'm kind of thinking it through as I'm saying it.
Yeah. I'll allow you to do that.
I do think that the son is the common denominator. Like, he loves his mom and he loves his wife. And I think that it's a benefit to him if those two people get along, and if they have a good relationship, it makes his life easier. So if there's something he can do to smooth that relationship, I think it's a good idea. So if there's hard news to be delivered on either side, that maybe should come from the son, because both people love him.
Right.
And,
right.
Hey, mom, we're not coming for Christmas, should probably come from your son and not from your daughter-in-law, or things like that.
Right.
Or even a son saying, like, hey, you're not being very kind to my mom, and I need you to be kind to my mom. I do think that it's okay for the son to take that role in some circumstances.
Right. So, yeah. So I agree with you. I think that it's they don't want to be stuck in the middle, but they are they kind of have to be, to a certain degree, to meet to. I think, and also I have heard it said that, and this is probably a hard blow for mothers, but his goal is to stand up for his wife and protect her, in my opinion, right? I mean, that's absolutely, and sometimes that's hard, right? We're like, what about me? But it's, I have to quote, to use one of your monikers, that's the right word, from your show, Monique. They always talk about Monique and Veronica when they don't want to name names.
Those are our anonymous names. Yes.
Everybody's named Monique or Veronica. Yeah, but so I know a Monique.
Yes.
And let's say Monique and Vinny. My situation. Monique and Vinny. And Vinny was a single, not single, he was only son, and he only child, actually, I believe. And he is used to a mom that's very dominating, that has told him what to do, and he's done it. They don't live close to her anymore. But when she comes into town, she says, this is how I want it done, right? She wanted to be, she wanted to be there when the baby was born. She wanted to be staying in their home when they brought the baby home. And that was who was my Monique? Monique was like, I want to come home without my mother-in-law being in that space.
Yes.
Right.
A reasonable request.
And Monique felt like it was Vinny's job to say to his mom, you guys need to back off.
I agree. Actually, in that case, I would think that Vinny would be the one to say, hey, mom, thank you so much for offering to come. The first week of the baby being home isn't the best time, so could you please come in a month?
Right. Yeah. Right. Our youngest son did that with us, when his daughter was born and was in NICU for 3 weeks, and he was very adamant about both her family and our family. It's like, when we come home, we need our own time. We need to go home without anybody being there. And this is not an insult. We want the support, and we want y'all there later, but we don't want anybody sleeping in our house but us, for a little bit. And I think and he was just very clear that this is how we're going to do it. This isn't, and it worked out really well for them, I think. So
yeah. And so that's going back to something that you brought up earlier, that clear, direct communication is so helpful.
Right.
And it's your job as a mother-in-law or as a grandmother, or whichever role you're in, to not take it personally.
Right.
If you're a daughter-in-law, that if your mother-in-law communicates directly with you, don't take it personally.
Yes.
Respect their wishes.
Yeah. So I have a great example of it on the other side with my mother-in-law. She was always she never made us feel guilty. Probably should have made us feel guilty, but she never did. However, I will tell you this, when it was her, I don't remember if it was her 80th, I think it was her 80th birthday. Or maybe it was 70, I don't know, one of a significant birthday. A long time in advance, she said, it is really important to me that you guys all come here for my birthday. And if you can be there at all possible, please do.
I love that.
And it was just she gave us advance warning to plan around it. Everybody knew this is what, and everybody showed up. And there wasn't any, well, let me just see if people are going to come and they should know that this is an birthday, because, people don't know. Right. So
yeah,
how is it that for me, I struggle with, I don't want to make my kids feel guilty. I mean, that,
of course,
I really don't. It doesn't serve me well. They don't respond well to it. Let me flat out. It don't
no
work.
one really does. Yeah,
it don't work well.
Yes,
it is not my MO to make people feel guilty. Mm-hmm. Now, that being said, sometimes I can get myself into this loop of, okay, should I know that if I ask him, he's going to feel guilty because I should know that he's not going to come, right? Or like I start kind of,
no,
or if I don't ask him, then, if I don't say anything, I'm constantly trying to filter things through. Will this make my son feel guilty? And I don't want him to feel guilty. So I don't know what to do. Okay. So rewind.
Your job is to be clear and direct, and if possible, flexible. So, for example, in this situation with your mother-in-law, that was not a flexible time. This is my 80th birthday. I'd really like you to be there. I'm giving you plenty of advance notice. So here's the day. I'd like you to put it on your calendar. If it's something like Thanksgiving or Christmas or, some other event like that, if you can be flexible. So I know that certain families celebrate Thanksgiving at 2 p.m. on Thursday of Thanksgiving, and that is the time. Why?
Yeah.
Like, is it that important to you? Or could you make things easier for everyone and say, hey, I want us to all get together for the holidays. Which day could y'all come? Because then you're not tying people in, because what you don't want is for them to feel resentful that they have to be at your house on Thursday at 2.
Right.
So why don't you celebrate with your family on Thursday and then celebrate with our family on Friday?
Right.
So I would say that to both mothers-in-law and daughters-in-law. If you can be flexible about things, allow that flexibility, because the rigidity creates resentment and it ties people to specific things that aren't really necessary.
Yeah, that's really good advice. That's really good advice. For me personally, I don't care if we have Christmas on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve or January the 2nd. But I would like I'd like a time when all of us can be together if possible to celebrate. Yeah.
And some families are hotel families. They go to visit their family and they stay in a hotel. Other families put everyone in the house and people are sleeping on air mattresses or things like that. So be flexible about that. If your in-law, mother-in-law, or daughter-in-law comes from a hotel family and you're a pile up in the house kind of family, who cares? Like, don't get tough.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Because I think I've been tied to that. Like, oh, well, we all just used to pile everywhere. Like it didn't matter. Everyone didn't need their own room and their own bathroom. And like, I do think that. Yeah, that's good, right? Like, it doesn't have to be on.
Yeah, and which part of it is important? Like, if we all wake up together, then we're all going to be having coffee and breakfast together. Well, can I stay in a hotel and come to your house at 7 a.m. and we can still have coffee and breakfast together? Okay, great.
Love that.
Just allowing for flexibility, I think, it just creates more space for everyone to get their needs met and for people to not feel resentful.
I love that. That's really good. What do you think are things that mothers-in-law can do to make things? Oh, wait, I'm going to back up one other thing. Another question is, regarding communication. I don't know what the best way sometimes to communicate. Is it better to send a text message that goes to both my daughter-in-law and my son-in-law? Is it better to just send it to my daughter-in-law? Is it better to just send it to my son? Is it, is it better to get them on the telephone? Like, I always feel like, well, if I give them a text message, that gives them time to discuss it between the two of them and decide where they want to be.
That's a great question. And I would say I don't think there's a hard and fast rule about it. In our family, we have a family text thread that has everyone on it. And then I have a separate text with each of my kids, and then I have a text with each of my kids and their spouse, like
Yeah.
so if it were like, let's say, discussing a holiday, that's probably something that would go out to the whole family text thread.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was inviting my son and daughter-in-law to something specifically, I would send it to both of them. Or I would say, hey, I'd love to talk about Thanksgiving. Can you guys discuss it? And then let's set up a time to talk on the phone.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, I like that.
Because things can be so misconstrued via text, and especially if the relationship's a little eggshelly anyway.
Right.
You don't want to further that by, well, your mom's being so demanding about the holidays.
Right.
You don't want anyone to misread your invitation or, yeah.
What do you think, what can daughter-in-laws do to improve the relationship, to build the relationship? As a daughter-in-law, what do you?
Yeah. Yep. So some of this is going to apply to both sides, but I would say assume positive intent. Like, that is so important. Don't assume that your mother-in-law is a monster-in-law. Assume that your mother-in-law is a lovely person who loves this person that you fell in love with. She raised the person that you fell in love with, so she had to do something right. So assume that your mother-in-law cares for your husband, she cares for you, and assume that she wants a good relationship with you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It behooves everyone in the situation if you have a good relationship with your mother-in-law. And so, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, my friend Janet has told me this many times when I've called her about any relationship that I'm in, or something that has happened, and she'll say to me, Pam, assume good intent. Assume good intent. And really, if you think about that, most people, daughters-in-law, sons, anybody, right? They're not sitting around thinking, how can I mess you up? How can I do something that's going to piss you off?
No.
That's the last thing I want with regards to my children or my daughters-in-law, or my friends, or really anybody. I mean, I don't have that, the guy in traffic that I accidentally cut off. I wasn't sitting there thinking, how can I ruin your day by cutting you off? Or he cut me off, same thing. Like, okay, he didn't see me. Let's just assume good intent and move on.
Yeah. Yes. And so that to me is like the foundational piece, is assume that the other person has your best interest at heart. She's not trying to screw you over in some way. And you get to speak up. So I think this goes back to your point about feeling like you're walking on eggshells. No one actually feels better when you're walking on eggshells. So say what you want. So if you are a mother-in-law who is afraid, like you mentioned, you don't want your kids to feel guilty if you invite them to something and they can't come.
Right.
The baseline is, I want you around all the time. I want you to come home every weekend. I want you to be here for every holiday. So just assume I want you here at all times. I'm going to invite you to all the things. Yeah. And if you have to say no, like, it's okay. I'm not going to take it personally.
Yep. And the flip side of that is, you also shouldn't necessarily assume that they're trying to make you feel guilty. If you feel guilty, sometimes we feel guilty because I say it about my boys, I don't have to say anything for them to know that I'm disappointed, right?
Of course.
I mean, just because I raised them, they know what's important to me. They know I'd be disappointed if they didn't come, right? So, but just because I'm disappointed, that doesn't mean they need to be feeling guilty about it, right? Or that I'm trying to make them feel guilty.
Yeah. And the other thing is, if you know that, let's go with this. I want you to be here for the holidays. Of course, you're my kid. I love you. I want you to be home. Do you get to say no? Of course you do. Am I going to be sad if you say no? Of course I am. And so if you know I'm sad, don't get all prickly. Be like, oh man, Mom, I know you're bummed that we can't make it, and I'm bummed too. Or if you're the daughter-in-law, call your mother-in-law and say, man, I know that you're bummed that we're not going to be there for Christmas. Yeah, be soft toward that person. Don't be all prickly and be like, you're trying to make me feel guilty. It's like, no, I'm sad that you're not going to be there. I love you. I want you to be around.
Right. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, because like I said, I know that that with my kids, like I said, because they know me, they know that I'm disappointed. And then I think sometimes that, and I try to check myself. Am I making, am I intentionally trying to make them feel guilty? No, but I also can't help that I feel disappointed, right?
And those are just like blanket across the board. Again, like I want you to be home for every single holiday. Anytime you can't come, I'm going to be disappointed. That is a given.
Right.
Does that mean you should change your plans? Does that mean you should feel guilty? No. It means you should be soft with me because you know I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, because like you said, the reaction is then for the person to be mad, like mad,
defensive,
and then you're right, and okay, that's. I think that also the clear communication is really helpful. I have had one of the things I love about my son and daughter-in-law, when a lot of times when we call, they both get on the phone with me, and I'll say something like, "Okay, well, we'll have dinner at 7 or something," and my daughter-in-law will go, "Well, if would it be possible to move it to 8 because that would do this, or if you could move it to 6, then that allows us to put the baby to bed, or whatever." And I'm like, "Oh, of course, right?" So she's willing to. Just because I say it suggests something, she's really very willing to counter it with what works for her, which I'm so grateful for. I don't want to say this is how it's going to be, and then we got to do it this way.
Such a good example. So she's not walking on eggshells around you, because if she was, she would say, "Okay, we'll do it at 7," and then she'd be resentful.
Exactly.
But because she's speaking up and saying, "Oh, actually 6 works better for us," that clear communication makes things better for everyone, and you don't feel eggshelly around each other.
Yeah, I'm very. She's great with that. It just really helps me. And by the same token, I've had my son say to me sometimes, like he'll pull me aside and say, "Hey, Mom, don't bring this up in front of so and so, and or don't talk about this issue in front of his wife or whatever, And I'll be like, "Oh, okay. I'm glad you told me that," whatever it is. What I'm thinking at the time, I think it was an ex-girlfriend of his that I brought up.
Oh,
okay. I was trying to get out of it. I could see the puzzled look on your face, and I was trying not to say what I brought up, but he's like, "Just don't bring that up." And I thought, oh gosh, of course I shouldn't. Of course I shouldn't say that, right? And I was just so grateful that he told me, versus just being mad that I had done it. Mm-hmm. And then just waiting for me to do it again,
Right.
And,
of course.
Because I don't want to do things that upset anybody or make anybody feel uncomfortable or whatever. So I thought,
yes.
Yeah. So I am so grateful for that open communication when it comes to me. And I think my tip to other women would be, listen, try not to be defensive. If your child is giving you feedback, listen and acknowledge your role in it, right? To acknowledge, okay, sorry, that's, that wasn't what I meant. I don't want that to happen.
Yeah. Yep. And so I do think the clear communication, the flexibility, the non-defensiveness, the assuming positive intent, those are things that both mothers-in-law and daughters-in-law can do to improve that relationship. And just keeping in mind on both sides that having a positive relationship with this person is in your best interest.
Yes.
And you don't have to be BFFs if maybe this person's not exactly your cup of tea, but you can still have a positive relationship.
Right. It only serves. I've said this about my son both my sons have very great in-laws that just love them and take such good care of them and support them, and sometimes I can feel competitive with them. I can feel, I'm not gonna lie, right?
Yeah, for sure.
They both of my children live closer in distance to their in-laws than they do to Brian and me, right? So sometimes that can feel like, oh, they get them more than we do, and what I always remind myself is there's not enough people in the world to love my children and my grandchildren, right? And so it only serves all of us to have good relationships, not only with the children, but with each other, to create. You don't want them to have to pick all the time. Like, oh, we have to go here and then we have to go there. And we have to, you want them to feel like it's all inclusive. resort.
Yes. Yes, for sure.
That's good. Okay, so what are some common traps that keep this relationship stuck?
Yeah, that is a really good question. So I think that if your son avoids like the mediating, if he's the one that like, I don't want to get in the middle of it, I think this can actually make things worse.
Okay.
So if there are any sons that are out there listening to this, don't be afraid. You love both of these people. You want both of these people to get along. So don't be afraid to sort of challenge both people to be kind to each other, challenge both people to speak up. Don't be afraid to jump in and deliver the difficult news. I also think that because this keeps coming up, but this walking on eggshells because you're trying to be polite to someone.
Yeah, I think that I think, what is it? Politeness instead of honesty, right? And I think we value politeness, but really it's honesty being, and you can be kind with honest. You can be honest and kind. It doesn't
always
be
kind.
cutting, right? It doesn't have to be cutting.
Yeah.
But sometimes when we're polite, then, if you say one thing and then you go to your bedroom and you're pissed off about it,
it's not helpful.
Help.
And your example about that was perfect about your daughter-in-law who will say, oh, hey, could we do it this day instead of that day? Or could we do it at this time instead of that time? She's being honest with you. And the polite thing to do might be to say, oh, sure,
we'll be there
whenever you want.
Well, I know just an example from with my own mother that I have done. My parents, they live about an hour away from here, and they had a ranch when my boys were growing up, and they really wanted you out there at 7 o'clock in the morning, right? So, we'd all get in the car and get in, and it used to be a flippin' fire drill to get my three boys, in the car and blah, 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 and, out there. And and I would always tell my mother I could do it instead of just saying, and because I knew that my dad would always make some comment if we didn't get there till 9, whatever, so, and instead of standing up for my own family at that point, and
yeah.
I'd say, we'll be there at 9 o'clock. I would say we're going to be there at 7. Then I'd put all this stress on my family. Then we get there at 8, and everybody's mad anyway.
And you're not happy and your mom's not happy.
Yeah, nobody's happy. Nobody's happy. But I did it to myself instead of saying, this just doesn't work. We can't, it does not work for us to be there at 7. We'll be there. We'll miss the first couple hours. We're sorry.
Yep. It's true. And if it's an event, of course, if it's like a wedding, you're going to be on time. But if it's Thanksgiving dinner or opening presents on Christmas morning, there's no time.
Right.
There's only a time that you've created in your mind. And so it's, being flexible, I think, is super helpful in that situation.
Let's go back a little bit too and talk about triangulation and also how that can play into, we talked about the son being maybe has to be involved in that, but then there's other ways of triangulating too, right? You talk to other people in the family about that person. How does that, go down?
Yeah, I think that this can keep us stuck in negativity if we're venting to another family member about the daughter-in-law or the mother-in-law, that's not super helpful. And so it's better to either keep it to yourself, talk to your therapist about it, or
call
talk to the person directly. Yeah, exactly. Talk to the person directly if there's some action to be taken.
Good.
Yeah, but definitely do not put the son in the middle of that thing, that's a different thing. So venting, you would never call your son to vent about his wife, and you should not call your husband to vent about his mother, because that's putting him in a weird situation.
That's interesting. Right?
Yeah.
So, but then how does that look in terms of needing him to mediate?
So if you have an ask like, hey, I would like to invite you guys to this. what's the best way to go about that? Like asking for something that's helpful is different than being like, your wife is such a bitch, or, your mom is terrible. Don't put him in that position, because he loves both people.
Got it.
And he should love both people.
Right.
Yeah. So involving the son or the husband in this case, should be solution focused, positivity. Like, can you help me with this?
Okay.
This person is a terrible person.
Okay. I want to get on one other topic too that comes up is boundaries, right? And I think, and I think this is something that is very difficult for mothers, as again, just adult children in general, right? Just, I'm used to being able to, you grew up, I walked into your room when I wanted to walk into your room. Now you're saying I can't walk into your house, or whatever, so, but then, boundaries, of course, could be a whole show.
Yes, absolutely. We just did a show on this on Dateable AF.
Yeah, you did. Yes, you did. So setting a boundary, can you give us just a nugget of how good boundary works?
Yep, that's a great question. So the most important thing to remember is that a boundary is always about yourself and what you will do in response to someone else.
Okay, say that again.
So the example that you just gave, a boundary isn't, you can't walk in my room, because I'm telling you what you can and can't do. Okay. What I will say is, hey, I would prefer that you not walk in my room, so I'm going to keep the door locked.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask for what I need, and then I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do in response.
Okay.
So a boundary isn't, you have to be at my house at 7 a.m. on Christmas morning. Okay. A boundary is, hey, I'd love you to be there by 7. If you're not there, we're going to start without you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. An example I would think for a household would be like, okay, I want you, if you, let's see, how about this one? If you show up here unexpected, you're not going to be allowed in, right? I need you, maybe that's not quite the right way to put it, but, I prefer you to call me before you come, call or text before you stop by. If you come over unannounced, I'm not
if you come over unannounced and I'm not available,
there you go. That's better.
You're not going to be able to visit.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, those are good.
You're not trying to teach the person a lesson by setting a boundary. You're trying to take care of yourself. And if, let's say, your daughter-in-law stops by unannounced all the time, probably it would be the reverse. I guess the mother-in-law would be one stopping by unannounced. But let's suppose your daughter-in-law stops by unannounced and you don't like that. You would say, like, hey, please let me know you're coming over. If you come over and I'm free, I'm not doing anything, then I'll invite you in. If you come over and I'm in the middle of something, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to visit with you.
Right. Yeah. That's good.
So you're not punishing her by locking her out if she stops by unannounced, but you're also not rearranging your schedule to accommodate her when she did something that didn't work for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, there's, it's great. There's so many great, I think about this topic and there relationships with your in-laws can be such a nurturing, wonderful, it's a whole extra branches on your tree kind of thing.
Yes.
My daughter-in-law, her mother and I call each other, we're friends-in-law now is what we like to say. Cause she sit there and go, that's my son-in-law's mother-in-law. My son's mother-in-law. Yeah, that's that.
Yeah.
But it's nice to be able to say friends-in-law and to build the community that surrounds them and loves them. And
yes.
So we're running out of time, man. It's so good. I want our wrap-ups and takeaways. I always love how you and Rachel on your show say, okay, take away these ideas and how can we move forward? If you think let's say you have a strained relationship with your mother-in-law or your daughter-in-law, what would be the next step? What would be the step you would first suggest?
What I would suggest there is starting internally, like starting with yourself and seeing if you can shift to a positive mindset about it. So shift to, this is a person that I would like to have a positive relationship with for selfish reasons. It makes my life better if I have a positive relationship. Mm-hmm. So start there, like internally, and start thinking of positive things about this person. Start training your mind to look at what's right about this person. And eventually that will spill over to the outside. I think, again, being mindful of this person, of respecting this person's boundaries, being mindful of being flexible with this person, that those are all places to start. But I also think it wouldn't hurt to let the person know that you want a positive relationship and that your goal is positivity. And what can I do? Ask them, what can I do to make this better? Or even better? You don't even want to imply that it's bad, but like, is there something I could do that would make our relationship even closer or even better?
Okay, I like that. That's great. That's great. Final thoughts, comments?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you're bringing up this topic, because I think so many people are on one or both sides of this, and that there's not really a forum in which we're talking about it. So final thoughts, I would say, just remember respect, remember empathy, clear communication. All of those things are universal repair tools and universal tools that set the stage for good relationships. And that maybe your best case scenario isn't that you're going to be best friends with this person, but your best case scenario is that you have mutual support and mutual respect for one another.
Well, and to go back to what you said at the beginning, you can remember, one, this is the woman that raised the man you married as a daughter-in-law, and also this is the person your son has chosen to love, and you want that to be a successful relationship. Otherwise he's having a miserable life. I mean, you don't want to be at war with that person that loves your child. I mean, you don't. It's only to your son's benefit and to everybody's benefit for everyone to be happy.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that, they're complicated because it's so important. It's a very, and then of course, we didn't, the daughters-in-law frequently are the gatekeepers of the grandkids. That's a whole nother scary topic. Yeah, but
that's a different episode, a subsequent episode that we could talk about that one.
I'm gonna have you back. I'm gonna get back on that one. But yeah, I love that the best outcome isn't best friends; it's mutual dignity and peace. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you so very, very much for being here. I'm so excited. I will have in my show notes ways for you to get a hold of Dr. Kyle and connect with her. Go ahead and tell them how to find your podcast and how they can reach you through social media.
Thank you. Well, I first want to say just thank you for inviting me to be on your show.
Absolutely.
It is literally one of my favorite podcasts, so I feel honored to be a guest here.
Thanks.
And yeah, so if any of your listeners want to check out our podcast, it's called Dateable AF. It's the word date and the word able together. So sometimes people forget that little E in the middle. So we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you find your podcast, Dateable AF. And we're also on Instagram at Dateable AF.
Awesome. Well, it's a great show. Like I said, it'll help your relationship no matter where you fall on the spectrum. And I've learned so many things. It's really opened my eyes to lots of stuff. So I appreciate the work that you and Rachel are doing. And this has been so much fun. And thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Until next time, everybody, keep speaking your truth out loud, because grit in your teeth gives you TMJ. Bye-bye, everybody.